Yeah, we can be in it's not a family show. We can just say whatever you think.
Titties.
Yeah, you could.
Say titties.
Okay, so last time when we tried to shoot a video, one of the problems we ran into is that we kept talking to each other and not looking at the camera because it's really weird to look at the camera when there's nobody there. You remember this, right?
Yes.
So we ended up just talking to each other the whole time and it looked really weird on camera.
Right.
So one of the pieces of advice we got is that we should put like a teddy bear or like a picture, like something with a face over there, all right?
Following.
Okay, so I came up with the perfect thing that I want to hang up there. So I printed out a picture of Cara Delevingne
Oh my god.
that we're gonna hang. So when we're talking about these board games, it's like we're talking to Cara Delevingne about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Why are you laughing?
Like, it's a casual, like, conversation with our friend
Yeah.
who's crawling towards us in a
Yeah,
field.
yeah.
Is
You know,
there-
we do.
Is this, you seem to not think it's a good
I
idea.
thought it was. I just looked from the back. I thought it was like David Bowie.
This is not David Bowie.
No, I know, but from like the back when you were
About
pulling
as
it
cool
out.
though. So, I feel like you're not feeling this idea.
I mean, you can put it there.
Yeah? I mean, whose picture should I put? Like, that's about as good as it's gonna get, right?
Is it?
Hello everyone, welcome to Cardboard Console Presents. This is our first episode in which we talk about what we're calling the Gateway Boot Camp, Gateway Games Boot Camp, where we go over some of the more, established games out in the gaming landscape, some of the games that people get into first as a way of working our way up to other more advanced strategy games that we want to play on the channel for you all. But before we get into the main topic, I just kind of want to talk about us and introduce the concept because this is our first episode and you have no idea who we are. So, my name is Michael.
I'm Omi.
Katie.
And we're all friends, I think. And the interesting thing about us, and what made me want to do this channel, is that all three of us are really into games, but particularly video games. And I'm more of the board gamer. I'm more of the tabletop gamer. And I thought it'd be really interesting to kind of get their opinions on board games because they're not really huge on board games. They played some board games, and I've made them play some board games, but they're generally not that immersed in the world. So I thought it'd be really cool as someone who's really into board games, with friends who are really into video games, kind of bringing them along this journey, going through some of the gateway games, some of the early introductory games. They're working our way up to more complicated strategy games, different kinds of games out there. So that's sort of the idea behind the channel. In no way, shape, or form is this a review channel. We don't rank games. This is not like a preview channel where we, show off new games that aren't out yet. I mean, we might do that at some point, but not because of any paid reason, just because we want to experience them. But this really is more of a discussion show, and I really want to establish that right from the beginning, that this is a show that discusses our experiences playing games, what we love about games, and just getting the perspectives of someone who plays a lot of board games and people who are just starting to get into the hobby. But before we get any further into it, neither of you are new to the idea of talking about games on YouTube because you actually are on a YouTube channel for games. So if you want to just really quickly talk about your background with regards to games and things like that, and then we can get started on the main topic.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So we're actually part of Hex Code Girls. You can check us out on YouTube. Sorry, I will be finger gunning a lot, so let's get that out of the way now. Yeah, I've been playing video games for a long time, and like pretty much mainly video games since I was like 13.
3 years old.
3 years old. That's what I meant to say. No, actually, it might have been like 5. I played those like, like the ones
So
back
3,
in the 90s.
15, 13, average to 5.
I'm
All
not
the
good at
same
math.
age. Yeah.
Yeah, so I used to play those like, those like learning CD-ROMs
like,
back in the 90s.
kindergarten, like Jumpstart.
Kinda like
kindergarten
those, yeah.
Jumpstart.
So I was,
learned some math.
I was
very basic.
The ones I learned were
Yeah,
about
I don't-
dinosaurs,
yeah,
so
you
those were
didn't do that
really
one.
cool. So I played a lot of those, and then I was a PC gamer for a long time, and then a PS4 gamer, and more stuff where like little story, so like level up, shoot, win. so that's
only
it.
Another thing I didn't
you
mention
have.
is it's interesting too that we all have very different tastes in games
Right,
too.
right.
Yeah. Whereas
I-
you really like,
Yeah.
Me?
yeah, like more
Yeah, first-person
like games
shooter.
and stuff, and I really like those like story-based games where, or like RPGs, ones that are like take you on a journey and like have a plot to it.
Right.
Whereas like you don't give a shit about that.
Yeah, no, I don't care about the story. I'm just like, just give me cool stuff. That's a cool sword. Let me level it up. Awesome.
Yeah, which is one. I think we're gonna get some really interesting opinions on a lot of the games then, because for example, we played, and you'll see this episode later, but we played Time Stories,
Right.
And I think you and I really got into the story part of it.
Yeah.
But you were kind of like more that we guys gotta solve it and get through it as fast as
Right,
possible.
right,
And
yeah.
it's sort of interesting to see how different people respond to games differently.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
See where that takes us.
Yeah.
exactly, and I'm really happy to have them here. My background is I'm a huge video game player most of my life. I've really only been in tabletop games for maybe the last 5 years or so. I'm not someone who grew up my whole life with them. I mean, I played like Monopoly, Candyland, all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff that everybody played, right? But
I didn't.
you didn't because
You
you're
had a
cool like
sad
that.
childhood. So.
I kind of did.
You just sat in a
I don't think I
dark
play.
room,
Yeah, I didn't play
looking
like.
out the window.
We in my house we have only owned one board game. No, two.
Okay.
It's like the Hebrew version of Scrabble, and then the Simpsons Clue.
In
Okay,
Hebrew also, or-
specifically.
No,
Wait,
that was in English.
Okay.
That's
All
it.
right. Wow. That's
I
pretty
haven't even played Monopoly until I was like in my late teens.
Yeah.
I played
whereas,
Candyland
like,
once.
Yeah, like I like every now and then when I was like really young we'd have like board game night and we'd play like Sorry and
Yeah.
like and like Clue
Yeah.
and some card game. I don't remember what that was called. But that's
Uno?
fine.
No. Okay.
You said card game?
Yeah. Someone remember.
Yeah, and mention in the comments
Yeah.
if you know Katie. Mention in the
By those
comments.
two
Yeah.
comments,
But-
I can pick it out of my mind.
So yeah, so you had some background in board game stuff, but not like the mainstream stuff.
Not
nothing
nothing
you-
like this.
Nothing where you'd
even.
know the name of the
Yeah.
designer like on the cover, right? Like
Yeah.
it's one of the that's when
Yeah,
you know you're in
yeah.
like hobby gaming now. It's
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
they actually put the guy's name on the cover. Okay. All right, so that's sort of the established thing there. The three games we're going to discuss today in our Gateway Board Game Boot Camp episode is Settlers of Catan, Ticket to Ride, and Pandemic in that order, which also is release order. And the reason we picked those three games for this first episode of the boot camp is because I feel like these three games are the ones that most kind of straddle that line between being super mainstream and being still like a hobby game. And what I mean by that is that, they're certainly more advanced than like roll and move games like Monopoly or anything like that, but they're also widespread enough where you could walk into a Target and buy any one of
Yeah.
these, And it's not like, people talk about how wonderful Scythe is, for example, one of my favorite games. You're not going to buy that at Walmart. That's not a super popular, well-known game in the mainstream. But these three games are gateway games that are known to both the hobby enthusiast community as well as just the mainstream community. So we want to go through them. And the ironic thing is, even though I'm really big into board games now, I've actually never played these games before we started doing
Which
this.
surprised me.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
is surprising because like we've both played at least Catan.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'd
But,
never played.
yeah.
I think I played Catan once, like many years ago. I don't remember anything about it, so I basically
Long
never
enough to
played it.
have forgotten.
Yeah, I didn't know a single thing. I didn't remember a single thing about it.
Right.
And I played like a couple of the spin-offs of Pandemic, but I've never played just the base regular Pandemic. But yeah, so this was my first time playing these gateway games. It was kind of interesting as someone who plays much more complex games usually, to kind of go back and sort of play
Experience
these
like,
gateway
more limited
games.
ones.
Yeah, and see like what that bridge is like from someone who's a casual player to someone who's more into the
Yeah.
strategic
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start off by talking about Catan.
Let's jump on in.
So Settlers of Catan, designed by Klaus Tuber, was released in Germany in 1994. And the reason we're going over this game first is because it's not the first designer game or hobby game or anything like that, but it is the first one that I think got like this crazy level of mainstream success to the point where it was in, I don't know for sure, but I think it was like in Toys R Us's and Walmart's and things like that. It got pretty big. Not right away, but it's become pretty much, like it's almost as well known as Monopoly at this point, I feel like.
Yeah,
I would
it's
say so.
everywhere.
It's
I feel like
almost on that level.
any store I've ever walked into
That has anything
sells
with games, yeah.
any sort of board game, 100%.
Like at
has
least has
Yeah.
Catan.
yeah.
And that's crazy to think about given the fact that it has like these, I guess what they call German style or Euro mechanics. Like this is not an American style game. It has resource management, it has all this kind of stuff, the hexagonal
Get it
board
right.
pieces and everything. All this was very new to American players. And the fact that it reached the success that it did, I think makes it stand out as sort of a good starting point and why we decided to talk about this one first. So you had some experience with this game before. Neither Omi or I had played. Or no, you did
No,
play it
that's
before.
wrong.
Yeah, you did play it before.
No, which is
I
really
never played
funny.
it before. They
I
had played it
used to
before,
play
yeah.
it
Oh,
when
yeah?
I was younger. and I had a group of friends, and this was like the only game we ever played.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's the only board game that I've ever, like, really gotten into. And then hadn't played it in years. And then I think I made you play it like once, like a few months ago.
Yeah.
What I actually got it for free.
Nice.
And I was like, I came home, I was like, look what we have. Let's just play it. And so we played it.
Very cool.
Just us two, yeah.
Yeah.
So what'd you think about the playthrough we had? Because we only played it once together.
Right.
What'd you think of that playthrough? It was pretty. We were pretty animated, I think, during it. But
Yeah.
maybe not for all the best reasons.
I mean, during that playthrough, the one word that sticks out is major suffering.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not like against the games. I mean, I know you have stopped touching things.
I'm sorry. They're just here, so I'll have to mess with that. I'll put my hands down.
I mean, you'd never played this game before. What was your,
No.
what was your feelings?
So I'm kind of torn on my opinions of this game because this is a video about gateway games and what we think would be good stepping stones to go from a mainstream kind of game to a more strategy-based kind of game. And I would feel bad saying that I don't think Catan belongs in there because I do think it does for a few of the reasons I just mentioned. I think the fact that it brought certain mechanics to an American audience that had never seen it before and actually succeeded in making them so well known. I mean, it really is, like, we think of it now as just kind of standard, like whatever, but the fact that you have a modular board where you can move things around, the fact that you have different ways of getting certain resources that you can change into other things that you put on the board, like the settlements and the cities and all this kind of stuff, that's all stuff that was fairly new to American players back in 1994. And the fact that it reached the success it did, I feel like it definitely deserves a lot of the praise it gets. My issue with it, though, is if you're talking about being a game that you take someone who's more of a mainstream player and bring them into the strategy world, I don't think there's that much strategy in it.
Yeah, because it felt very like once someone took their turn, like all stakes have, I don't know, it's really hard to kind of like,
Downtime was pretty bad.
Yeah, it's really hard to plan ahead a lot. I mean,
Yeah, because... Sorry.
from us like playing it that one time, I guess.
Don't speak
but-
over people.
That's what...
Before we
Sorry.
started, I was scolded for, like, don't speak
Yeah.
over anybody, but this thing over here.
That's why I stopped myself. I was like, nope, let her have, she has,
I'm done. Go ahead.
Okay, my turn. No, that was one of my things is that you can sit here, and I'm a person who wants to, like, plan ahead and win. I love winning. And I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Like, seeing it. And then at the drop of a hat, dime, whatever the
Yeah.
phrase is, like, everything can go away. Like, everything, like, this little robber can just absolutely, like, destroy anything you had thought you were going to go for.
Yeah.
So, I know you had mentioned, like, tactical and strategic, and see,
Yeah.
those words, for me, meant, like, nothing. Those,
Yeah.
like, for me are interchangeable. Well, not that they mean nothing, but I'm like...
Don't know what
They
words
mean
mean.
I
They could
know
be
what
an
they were.
instrument to keep you from getting wet in
Yeah, I
the
don't
rain.
know.
They can be.
I don't know what it meant. It was like a hat,
A delicious
you know?
fruit. It can be.
Those bricks don't go here.
Immediately just knew.
Yep. Yeah, because, and then what you mentioned even earlier, like, literally, like, 3 minutes ago about, like, modular European...
Yeah.
See, I opened it up,
I
like,
don't know what those mean, yeah.
that means nothing
that's
to me.
why
I don't
we're
know what
here.
you're
We're here to
talking
learn
about.
about it.
Yeah.
Right. So this is gonna be really, remember this 100 episodes. From
Yeah.
now, when she's all like, I'm not
Like
really
using
into,
using those words now.
Yeah, just use those
Remember
words
them.
like I don't
Right.
want the meeple quality in this game or whatever. Like it'll just be. Anyway.
Because, like, when we, like, opened the board and we saw that there were hexagonal pieces, we were just like, oh, that's kind of cool. And just moved on with it. Like, that's it. There wasn't like, oh, this
wasn't
is
like a thing.
European influence. I'm like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about?
No, I do
you
think
know?
it's really cool to play this game and like have this. The interesting thing is this: look, you don't have to play this game to enjoy it. You can enjoy it, but you don't have to play it to enjoy it.
You're probably not gonna.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, I'm going to be very careful about like putting down because as someone who wants to design games myself, I feel very sensitive about not putting down other people's games. But you know what? Klaus Tuber's made his money. Like Catan is like it's pretty
He's fine.
established. I mean, he doesn't care what I
He's
think.
not offended.
Yeah, he doesn't care at all what I think. So, I don't think it's a great game now, like comparing it to everything we have. But I think just from a historical perspective, it's really interesting to play this game and know this is one of the first ones of its type to become as successful as it was. And then when we play something, I don't know, for example, like Scythe down the road, right? You're going to see the hex-shaped spaces, you're going to see the resource management, you're going to see all this stuff, and then you'll be able to look back and be like, oh, I remember that first game was, you know, Catan that we played, and some of the similar mechanics, and now you fast forward 25 years or whatever it is, and it's like, oh man, like people have taken this and done such great stuff with it, you know? It's kind of like a weird analogy I would draw is something like reading Silver Age comics. Like, I love superheroes, I love comic books. It's very difficult sometimes to go back and read those comics from the 60s. They feel very outdated a lot of the time. But at the same time, it's really cool to read them and see sort of the origins of certain things. And that way when you see the movies or you see even more, read more recent comic books, you have a sense of appreciation because you see the continuity, you see the development, you see the evolution from one point to the other. So, yeah, if you just want to have a fun night, I would not suggest playing, you know, Catan, but like as a historical lesson in a way, like almost like as like an appreciation of an art form over time. I feel like it's worth playing it and like knowing what it is, you know. Go ahead.
Well, you said it's like, you might like not have fun with it. I think it's like, well, this was one of your points actually. It depends who you're playing with.
Yeah, every time you play this game, it's like maybe you'll have fun, maybe you won't. Maybe it'll be like super competitive. Maybe one time, like, when we were playing it, I think, like, really, like, the ones that were really, less, what is it, probability? That's the word? Like, those were rolled a lot.
Yeah,
and it's like,
because there's
like,
certain ones.
some of us
yeah.
have planned, like, oh, like, here's where we'll be, and then, like, you, like, never, I feel like you had a less, like, fun time, because, like, none of your numbers were ever rolled.
For like 7 rounds,
For, like,
you just
so
like
long.
got nothing.
Yeah.
Because of the way I laid down my roads, and you could say that that's my fault and I should have played differently, and that's a valid criticism, right? I wasn't thinking properly, but there was so much downtime for me. Like, there were so many turns where I didn't get any resources, I just didn't have anything to do. I was like, I was kind of losing my mind at one point. I think I started.
At one point, you were actually like, you were just
I sounded like a crazy
not. You were
person.
just like, I think you were literally like, I'm losing it. I was like, oh, no, you were like, I gave it all. It's like,
I was helping because I was so far behind. I was trying to help other people win. So
yeah, because like, I don't even care.
Who
Just
can
here.
we get to win?
Here,
How
just
do we
take-
get this over?
You were
with?
rooting for anyone else but you.
I was.
Because you were like, I know I'm not
going
going to win.
Yeah.
But that, had me thinking, like, is that the point? Or, like, because I watched that video that you sent me about his origin.
Klaus?
He said, Klaus.
Yeah.
Tuber's influence, and he said he really liked Vikings and kind of going in through that. So I was like, did he want to put that as like a story element where it's like it is random when you go settle?
Yeah.
You might not get what you think you're gonna get.
That
And
is
it just
definitely-
it allows like for very different play experiences each time. Where like you can play this a lot and have different experiences with each time. Whereas like if you play Sorry, you're gonna have the same experience like every time. Like it'll be a little different or whatever, but pretty much like you expect certain outcomes. But this, like maybe next time more roles will be in your favor and you're gonna like love and enjoy it more.
Right,
but
right.
like it's different.
Yeah, and that is true. I personally don't know if I would. Like right now, honestly, I have no incentive to ever play this game again.
Understandable.
And I would, however, try, because here's the other thing too about this game as well as Ticket to Ride and Pandemic is the other thing that connects all three of them is that they all have multiple versions and spin-offs and I mean there's like 20 different Catans, 20 different Pandemics, 20 different Ticket to Rides. I would actually be interested to see the other ones to see how they improved upon the design over time. That I mean, just
it would be
again,
really
like not to have fun because that's not something I'm into. I don't particularly play games to have fun. I play them to sort of reverse engineer the design and inspire my own
The
ideas. and
entire
stuff.
time you were questioning like every mechanic.
Basically, yeah. I'm
just like-
one of those guys.
Just play, just roll your
So
dice.
yeah, so as long as I don't have the expectation of enjoying it at all, I can play. I want to play all the different Catans and like maybe do a retro. That would be maybe a video, like a retrospective on all the
Yeah, we'll
different
get into that
Catans.
later.
Yeah, sorry, I'll shut up about that. But anyway, so long story short, I think at the end of the day, it's a really good artifact. It's a really good touchstone in this journey of where board games have gotten to now. But do I think it in and of itself is such a great game to introduce to someone as a as an intro to the hobby, I'm not so sure. If someone who
Like-
never played board games other than like Sorry and stuff came up to me and said, "Hey, give me the first like strategy game, something to get me out of Candyland, out of all that stuff."
There's
Would this be the
definitely
one? I don't know.
not the first one, but
Yeah.
it's there in the beginning.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, for me, I don't have a reference point
Yeah.
yet to make that decision because I played it. I'm like, it's a fine game,
Yeah.
but like
I
I
feel
can't
like-
contrast that with like if this would be the one
Yeah.
to give. It was like easy to learn, pretty simple to learn. You know, and okay, you get sheep when you roll 6. You know,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Sorry, didn't mean to
Continue.
interrupt.
No, I
we're
was
gonna
pretty
get
much
better at this over time. We'll know not to interrupt each other. No, please finish your thought.
No, that
Okay,
was
good.
all I had to say.
So what I was going to say was, in
Moving
that
on.
same video that they were interviewing Klaus Tuber
Yeah.
that I sent you, one of the things he said was he wanted to design a peaceful game that can inspire a lot of conversation around the table. In a weird way, I think he accomplished that in the sense
Yeah.
that you can't really be like intensely competitive. I mean, I guess you could
Yeah.
be, but it doesn't. The game that's more of your own personality
there's
defect.
no-
It's not like
Yeah,
it's
that's
not
me, just like,
yeah,
"Oh,
it's
dang
not
it."
like the game itself inspires any kind of like super big competition, and I think that's part of it, right? It's like you just sort of are playing it and you're having a conversation. Oh, my turn came up. You roll the dice. Oh, okay, I got a couple sheep. You go back. How's your
Yeah.
family, right? Like that's sort of
yeah.
the kind of game it
I
is,
can see that.
and that's good. And he achieved what he was going for. But is that the kind of game that we're trying to like if I'm going to introduce someone to board games, like I get like friends of mine who've never played board games or people who are really into video games and never played board games. I'm not trying to give them that kind of experience. I'm trying to give them an experience that's very engaging, whether it's cooperative or competitive.
Yeah.
One that you're like every move is really tense and and I don't know if this gives it to them, but I also don't want to be too hard on it because I do think it does introduce a lot of really
Right.
cool
Yeah.
ideas.
Because it's also hard to throw someone into a really intense game.
Yeah,
right
you don't
off
want
the
to throw
bat.
me into just
Right.
like everything. I'm like, hold on, slow down.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Resource management.
'Cause
What
it's
are you talking about?
Like,
all
you
this?
said, like mechanics like that are in this game will show up later in other games, and it's.
So
I
it's like the-
see it that it's really helpful to learn this easy game first, so that way when we go to the more difficult games,
Yeah.
we're like, oh, I understand this, so you don't have to be like hold the phone and like wait
Yeah.
and explain
Right,
it out or how
right.
to
Like,
do
oh,
something,
you
but-
mean like in Catan when you did this, and like,
Yeah.
yes, that's
Which
that's
in a
what I meant.
way kind of feeds into what we're doing, right? Because this is supposed to be board game boot camp that we're talking about, right?
Yep.
So again, you don't necessarily enjoy it; you just got to learn. So
no enjoyment.
Oh, it's kind of like art history when you like
Exactly.
when you were like an art major and you like.
remember when you were in?
Yeah, you know how you are, everyone. Like before you can like go on, you have to like learn the history. Like
Yeah.
you feel more, it's more like that.
I feel like it's more like that. All right, so whereas Catan is pretty much just, I feel like, an interesting relic or a history lesson to look back on,
Okay.
I feel like the next two
Ancient
games,
relic.
Yeah,
ancient relic of 1994, I feel like the next two games we're going to talk about are actually, in my opinion, legitimately good games. So let's talk about Ticket to Ride. So this is a competitive game like Catan was. The thing that makes this, in my opinion, a better gateway game is that this really does reward strategic play and planning ahead and all that in a way that Catan doesn't. And if I'm taking someone who's never played a strategy game before and I'm trying to introduce them to that hobby, I feel like this prepares them more for that kind of thing. So how did you feel about it when you were, because with Catan you played a few times before, but this really was your first time.
yeah, I
playing
never
it.
really heard of this before
So
this.
what was your takeaway from it? Well, you heard about it because of the trivia in the movie theater.
Yeah,
So-
trivia in the movie theater, and then two, I would see it all the time at Barnes and Noble.
That's
People
right.
are like, "Oh, it's like such a good game. Like, do you have it? Do you have it?" It was always sold out. I'm like, I don't know what I always be like. I don't know
are you
what it is,
talking
but it's
about?
like apparently really good. So
Yeah.
we played it.
It was really, really easy to learn.
Yeah.
And I love that. It was so quick, and it was like, I don't know, it was just really easy to understand. So I felt like with a lot of games, I'm afraid going on, like, not really afraid, but like, just
Hesitant?
the thought of having to sit and learn how to play each of these games and spend like an hour
Right.
doing that just sounds so exhausting. But like, and I'm
This
sure it'll
one
get
was-
fine as we get into playing more games. It'll be less and less like new mechanic after new mechanic having to learn. But this one was super easy to learn, like right away. Like I feel like that'll be like someone who's new to playing board games, super easy to like get the hang of and just like jump in.
Right. I thought of this one as more like not more family friendly, but a younger audience could pick up on this much quicker than Catan.
What do you think
like,
the difference is there?
it's just like you don't have to worry about like, oh wait, how many sheep is this, and if I go to this port, what do I need to do?
What do
Or
the
like,
dots
okay,
mean?
what?
What is this
And then there's a
gray dude? Like,
Yeah,
what is
you just
that?
like
these are
and,
just like here's
like,
some
oh,
cards.
is the train yellow?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have more
I
yellow
put
trains?
it on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so that's
It's definitely more streamlined, yeah.
and it's faster.
It's railroaded, you could say.
Wow.
Can you have like a wow 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 in there? It was faster, and I like that. Like the turns was like, oh wait, we even lost track of who
Because it goes so fast.
track
Yeah, I saw what you did.
of whose turn it was because it just went so quick.
Yeah.
But even after that, we just were able to, just get back right on it.
I'd say it's like almost a downfall of this game that like it's really easy to like focus and like have tunnel vision
Yes.
on what
Yes.
you're doing and not think like, because like after a while you're like, oh crap, this player only has 4 trains left, like I gotta get rid of my stuff.
Right.
It's really easy to like lose track of it.
Yeah.
But also this game is like quick and fun that it's like I'd play this one again. So like
I would play
then
this one again.
like
Yeah.
because it's quick and it like changes every time. So like for me, was it this one? Your little mini quests. That's how I thought of them, because
You're translating it into video game terms,
in my
right?
video
It's a
game
mini-
world,
it's a
because
mini
like I
quest,
thought,
yeah.
okay, you have like this big thing like your main quest is to have
As many of
the
them,
like
yeah.
the most points, but your mini quest, if so, should you choose to accept it, give you like other points, and that's where my tunnel vision came in. I like prioritized this,
Yeah,
and
I
then
did
I saw
too.
more experienced player start moving up the board. And I'm like, oh snap!
Yeah.
Like,
How?
I
'Cause
just
we were playing with
completely
someone who
missed
knows this
it.
game very well.
I came
Yeah.
in last place because I just completely
Yeah.
Yeah.
lost sight of what was important in life.
Yeah.
No, that's actually
What
a big thing
happens
for
to
me
the best of
too.
us.
Is you called it the mini quest, or what I call the side quest or whatever. The hidden agenda cards. Those were big for me too, because there are a lot of games that use that mechanic where there's information that's only known to a particular player. Each player has their own information, and they are working towards something. Towards that goal without the other players knowing about it, which is, again, you hear me mention this game a lot. It's my favorite competitive game of all time, Scythe. Inside, everybody has a secret mission as well, an objective that they're trying to accomplish. So if you're trying to get someone ready for that, you want someone to understand those mechanics, be used to that idea, that concept of like, okay, there's a general thing you're trying to get as many trains on the board because it gives you points, but also there's individual hidden things that you can do to get more points. This, again, is a good gateway game that gets you ready for more complicated strategy games down the road. The one thing that I think is a little bit, this is not a knock against the game at all, because I think the game is very well designed, but the one thing that I think gives Catan almost a slight edge over this, and it's the only thing, is that I don't think the mechanics in this game, most of them anyway, really show up in other games. With Catan, you have resource management, you have hexagonal pieces, you have a module board. Those are all things that come into other games. That you'll see that, and it'll make learning other more complicated games easier. This is the only game that has this mechanic. Learning this game isn't getting you ready for any other games, except for other Ticket to Ride games. This whole idea of, there's a little bit of set collection in here, or a lot of it even, but it's still not quite the same way. You're not... It's a good game. It's almost like it's too good of a game. Like it's too good of an individual game. It's too good of a singular experience that it's not really getting you ready for any other kind of game. Because there's no other game really like it, in my opinion. But
Well, why would you?
why would I what?
I mean, games aren't designed to be like, oh well,
Yeah.
let's make this a gateway
Yeah.
game.
Well, some are. There's a game called Dance Card that's designed specifically to be a gateway
So
game.
bad.
I know.
Hey, that could be like the new like gateway
Right?
game.
Oh, man.
But did the designer
You'll
think of this
become
game?
a relic.
Yeah, I know.
I think he's already a relic.
It's already a relic.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not like a downfall.
No. So
No,
this
no,
is,
I know what you
so
meant,
this
but,
is,
like-
let me clarify. So what I mean is, I think Catan is a better stepping stone, but I think this is a better game.
Like I'd say,
You know what I mean? Like, you
play
enjoy
this.
this game.
Like I'd say, if someone had never played board games, do this one first,
Okay.
and then maybe do Catan.
Yeah. Maybe. I think you can do. Yeah.
This is simpler.
Yeah.
And it's simpler and it's quick.
But
And
not- yeah,
Right,
not
no,
simpler in a
not
bad
in a bad
way.
way, but like,
Yeah.
I enjoyed this one. I enjoyed this more than Catan.
Absolutely, yeah. And I actually would have. I almost wanted to play this right away after we finished. I mean, we had other games to get to for this video, but I really want to play this again because I feel like this would reward replayability. Because we were playing with Dwight as well, and he knows this game very well, and he completely floored us. I mean, he completely left us in the dust.
He
So
made it
he made a few laps. I feel like around the point board. And I was watching how he was playing. He was playing so much differently than me. And I was actually excited. I was excited to play again and be like, let me try playing with that strategy.
Right.
Yeah.
Do that. With Catan, I didn't really feel. I mean, I didn't want to play it again and try it. It would have been the same thing.
Yeah, there's like slight different things I would play differently on it, but like for the most part, like this one I'm more excited to try out different styles.
And I would definitely want to try out the different expansions for it, right? Because they have like Heart of Africa, Europe, Nordic countries.
Cool.
There's like so many different Ticket to Rides. But definitely, yeah. I mean, if you're not like a uber nerd like me, who's into like the history of art, like of game, and like the art of games and all that kind of stuff, and like knowing the lineage and all that. If you don't need all that pretentious shit in your life like I do, you can completely skip Catan and go straight to this. I think this is a really good gateway game, a really good competitive gateway game. I feel like. Now, one thing that's really interesting that's happened in the gaming landscape, and just I think this is a pretty recent phenomenon, only maybe the last 10 years or so, is going from competitive to cooperative games. Because when people think of games, I know, segue, right?
I know. I did want to mention two more things,
Oh,
but
well,
go ahead with your segue.
No, you know
that's
what?
fine.
Let's go ahead. That's what were you going to say? Go ahead.
I wanted to mention I thought that these were very cute.
That's what I have to stop for?
Well, no, I was just saying, like...
Did you have a thing with that?
I want my time back.
What?
A thought process.
Okay. Well, now you make me feel bad because I was like, one of the things, because I thought this was, like, simpler for, a younger audience, I was like, you can...
Do you think they could hold those cards better in their small hands?
No! I'm off of the cards now. Okay. I was like, cool way to, like, learn geography. That's what I was thinking.
Children?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah,
and especially
can't teach you that.
No.
It's not a real area.
Oh my god,
Well,
you give me so much crap.
I'm not saying it.
Do you know what else has a map of the world on it? The next
Pandemic.
The next thing we're going to talk about, yeah.
Now we can talk. Now we reset.
And the one thing I'll say to segue from this to that.
Yeah.
You didn't want to mention this?
The first thing I thought, I opened the box. I was like, wow, that kind of looks like a ticket, and I was really excited for it.
Okay.
Yeah, people think through themes and make sure all the elements match, and that's good game design.
And I'm glad you said the word theme, because that's actually what I was going to say as my segue. I feel like the themes of these three games that we're playing, they're evolving as they chronologically go forward too. Because with Catan, it has whatever theme it has. I mean, it's just sheep and wood, and who cares? I don't care about the
Settling
theme at
land,
all.
which is for some reason took you almost half the game to understand.
Yeah,
we're building settlements.
At some point,
we're
it,
settling
clicked for me,
Catan.
we're settling Catan. Okay. But anyway, okay, fine. It has whatever theme it has.
Okay.
This has a pretty good theme of like railroads, and the artwork matches it, and like you have this whole train thing going. Yep. And I feel like the theme in the next game is way more cohesive. And what I mean by that is the one thematic, not mechanic complaint, but one thematic sort of question I have is, I don't really understand what we're doing in this game, because like what this is meant to represent, because we're not building a railroad because there's already tracks on the board. We're not.
I think we are building the railroad.
No,
I don't
think a
so.
railroad. I think we're trying to build the longest and like most connected track across the United States.
Is that what we're doing? Because it's like...
Well, it's on the back of the... Well,
could be...
It might be on the back of the box.
Yeah, that we...
Please let us know what this game is about.
I just go based on what I learned in the game. If it's not in the game, it doesn't count. That's the way I look at it. I don't...
How would you know?
Like, if the game itself
it?
Doesn't convey the information to me, I shouldn't have to read the back of the box.
Oh, so you want to learn it, like,
while
naturally.
Yeah,
be like, oh, this is...
Like, just real quick, like, if you're playing Time Stories, the game tells you what's going on.
Because it's, like, on the physical card, like, hey, do the
thing. It's not saying, like, oh, if you didn't read the back of the box, I have no idea what's going on in the game.
But I feel like you miss so much if you don't look through some of the, like, booklet.
I agree.
Well, we also didn't have to look through the booklet.
Yeah.
That's another point.
Yeah. We just jumped right in.
Well, we just had to talk to like how to play it, and we did it.
Yeah.
We didn't have like, so maybe if you do read the booklet, you'll know what it's about.
So they're destroying my
Yes.
argument here that this is not as thematically cohesive.
Michael's
as
wrong. That's
Pandemic.
another theme you'll get across these videos.
Yeah, very much. No, I'm sticking to what I was saying though, because I don't think it's
I had
clear that
another
you're.
point before you move.
I don't think it's clear that you're building a railroad here because there's already there's what look like tracks already on the board, and you're also not going like on a journey because you can put trains anywhere. It's not like one cohesive journey you're going on. So. I'm not saying this is bad. This was a really great game. I'm just saying I feel like because all games are an abstraction.
Because you
right?
like stories and you like and this is much more like there's not really.
It is a little bit abstract.
Yeah.
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 It has a strong theme of trains, but if you strip away the artwork and the theme, it is just an abstract game.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, which is why it didn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
Right, because what I mentioned earlier, I was like, I'll just do it. Yeah, I don't care.
But that's not. I don't want to harp on it too much because it's really not a bad thing about it at all. I'm using it just as a segue to point out that I think the theme in Pandemic is much more cohesive, and we'll get into why that is right now. All right, so the last game that we're going to talk about today is Pandemic, and I don't know about you two, but this is definitely my favorite of the three.
I agree.
Although I really like Ticket to Ride as well, like a lot. But this was I think this one's best suited to my personal taste, and I'll get into why. But yeah, if you want to go ahead and give us your... Cause this one actually is the one we have the freshest opinion on, because we just played it. Right before we started filming. So what were some of your initial thoughts on it when you started playing? Or finished playing?
I was already excited when you said that this was a co-op game, because I'm super competitive and I actually hate playing against like my friends and people.
I hate playing games with you.
I'm really bad. I just get like mad all the time.
What are we looking at?
Huh?
What are we looking at right now?
Is there a red on-air light on right now?
Yeah,
There
we're
it
recording
is.
right now.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, YouTube. There's the pizza.
Pizza's
head.
here?
We're almost done.
I just wanted to be sure I didn't disturb you, but I just did.
Yeah,
But
you
you did.
entirely
That's
disturb us a
fine.
lot.
Do we wanna?
So
Is that fine? Or?
It's fine.
we'll
Decide later if you want to cut that out.
All right. Or not. Or, here,
So
let me just.
I really liked this game because I didn't have to play against you.
Yes.
No, it is really fun. I love to bring it back to video games and to a really funny example, which I immediately thought of is whenever I play Mario Party with my friends, we cannot play without at least one computer because it will ruin friendships. It's just because it's I feel like we just need something to gang up on, and I was super excited that it was we're not fighting against each other.
Yeah.
That it's
Right.
we're discussing and talking about our strategies, and it's also a fun way to learn as someone who's not playing board games to talk to someone as they're playing a game and see how they think of
Yeah.
what strategies they think of, or that whole aspect of it was really fun.
Yeah, because for me, again, I don't like playing against my friends. I hate losing. So I was like, okay, we're on a team and we're going against a common enemy. So, and then your point with being able to discuss, you know how sometimes when you're playing a brand new game, you're like, is this the
Yeah.
right, should I do this or should I
Yeah.
do that? And you got to show your hand and there
Right.
goes everything anyway.
Yeah.
But here, I really like that everything was on the board. Everyone knew what was going on with everyone else, and we were all working together to be all right, here's this evil that we have to conquer, and how do we do that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of the things, I said this was best suited to me. One of the reasons why is because it is co-op, and when you think of board games, where most people think of board games, they usually think of a competitive game. That's the first thing that comes to mind is you're trying to play against each other. That actually wasn't my experience. I got into board games. My first hobby board game, my first strategic board game was actually Arkham Horror, which I know you don't know what that is, but you'll learn one day. But it's a really big, complex, 3-4 hour long cooperative game. And that was my first mainstream game that I played. So I played that. I played Legendary, which is a cooperative deck building game based on Marvel superheroes. I love Time Stories, obviously, which is a co-op game. So for me, board games have actually very often been characterized and defined as co-op experiences. So playing things like Catan or Ticket to Ride, they're fun, but that's just not... I don't know, that's just not where my brain goes to, because one of the things that you mentioned I think is a really good point. With a competitive game, when you're first playing it, you can't really ask advice from your friends at the table or have them help you out with understanding a certain rule, because the whole point is to beat the other person.
Right.
So even if they do help you, you kind of feel well, not really playing.
You're almost cheated of the experience
Yeah.
of the game. You can't really get the full experience of those games until you've played it at least once.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like I got the full. I still want to play this again, definitely, but like I still feel like I got a full experience of it the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I feel like the theme of this one speaks to me a little bit more because, like, with Settlers of Catan, okay, you're settling this island, great, you know, whatever, and you're doing it like in a weird way where no one's working together. Like, you think if you're settling an island, we'd be working together.
Like
but
sometimes you trade sheep for some hay.
That's
but,
it,
like,
right? Yeah.
That's all.
Like, you know, in like different countries.
I guess different Viking tribes are trying to kill each other. I don't know.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
like the Americas.
Yeah, I mean, I
how
get
they
it.
were settled. You know,
Yeah.
like you don't want, you know, the Americans don't want to work with the Dutch,
No.
with the French. So it's kind of like that.
Yeah, sort of.
There you go, history.
There you go, history
good
lesson.
history right there.
But yeah, so the theme of Catan is very, you know, I mean, here's the other thing too, and you know, they're kind of social here, political, but like, you know, the idea of Catan is, you
The
know,
socialist political.
It's a very colonist kind of point, right? Like, we're finding this island and we're going to just, you know, exploit
Yeah.
it for whatever it's worth, and you know,
Right.
so there's that aspect to it. It's not particularly noble.
Yeah.
Ticket to Ride, it's like. It's just it's kind of this capitalist.
It's just
thing
like you have
I'm
more of a
build-
monopoly,
Yeah,
like
just building. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm
1900s,
just
yeah.
building trains and railroads, whatever. There's not really anything to grab onto to feel good about. But like in this game, I really felt like we were like a team of scientists trying to like help
Yeah.
the world, you know.
And it's
that
also one of
really
the
was cool.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of the at least in these gateway games that we've experienced where it's like you have a role.
Yeah.
And you have a
Yes.
persona that you could get into, and it's the one. It's besides the other one, there's really more of a story with this one. Like
Yeah.
there's lives, there's like the other one's like just random like railroads going across, but here
Yeah.
it's like these are
These are
cities
people.
Yeah.
And
that are being infected and like that we need to cure.
Yeah, and like a good example of this, and I didn't say this while we were playing it, but the whole time, because I'm a Los Angeles native, the whole time I was thinking to myself, I don't want LA to get jacked up. I'm like, please don't let LA get jacked up. San
yeah,
Francisco
or
got
like
jacked up, I didn't
whenever
care.
like
but,
Chicago came on the board, I'm like, oh, Chicago.
Yeah.
yeah,
like,
right? It's like, so because it's also
it has
the
that
real
personal.
Yeah, because it's the
You
real
care
world.
about it, yeah.
So, I don't know, I feel like thematically this one makes you feel the most like a hero, I guess, you know? And I think that's one huge difference between video games and board games. I feel like in video games, because you're always kind of taking on a character, you're almost always playing a hero. Now, you might be playing an anti-hero or a very violent character like Kratos or something from God of War, but, you know, the idea is that you're taking on a character who's trying to accomplish something, and it's usually more often than not some kind of noble thing you're trying to accomplish. Whereas in board games, you're very often playing these abstract concepts. I'm trying to exploit the land. I'm trying to exploit workers. I'm trying to exploit resources. I'm trying to do whatever. And, you know, I never really connect to that. But with this, it's like, oh, you know, I felt like, because when we played, I was the medic. And I really felt like that I took on that role. I was like, oh, my special ability is that I can cure all the cubes out of a city if I get there. So like, I really like owned that as like, cool, send me where I need to go. Like, you know, if there's a really problem area, you know, airlift me in there. I'll cure anything. And I really got into that. So the theme really spoke to me. The one thing that I think Katie brought this up was you felt like it might have been a little bit too complicated as a gateway game. This would not necessarily be the first
I
game.
wouldn't do this one as the first one.
Okay.
I would agree.
But it's still definitely like before you move on to any more complicated ones, I feel like this one's it's really nice because it's so cooperative.
Yeah. I'd say, so if you're going to skip one, I'd say skip Catan. If you're going to give someone a first competitive game, then maybe go with Ticket to Ride.
Yeah.
And I would say the first cooperative game should be Pandemic. But if you're not going to teach someone a competitive game also, would this be do you think this would be a bad choice for your first game ever? Like your first non-Monopoly, non-Sorry game? Or do you feel like as long as you have
Not
one person who
necessarily.
knows what they're doing, it's going to be okay?
Yeah, I feel like if there's someone there who's played this game and knows it, it would be very easy to teach on the go.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
learn it.
And I think because it's cooperative, there's more.
It's easier to teach.
It's
'cause you can
easier to
while playing,
teach.
yeah.
It's more fun because you're part of a team. You know, at the very end when we got it, we were all like really happy. We were all happy. at the
Yeah,
end.
when we won, we
like,
beat it.
I feel like even if we didn't, we'd be like, it's like no, there's not like one person that's like victorious,
Yeah,
and
we
everyone
won as
else
a
is like
team,
really
yeah.
sad and angry and hates their
Yeah.
family, like in Monopoly. But in this one, we were all like really excited. Something I don't know. I was just thinking about as we were playing this. I was like, this would be like a good like game for people learning communication.
Really?
You know what I'm saying?
Elaborate on that.
Well, I'm just saying because you
like-
all have to cooperate. So it's a game where you you have
good
to
for
work
children.
with you have to work with them. Gotta learn.
Yeah, all of these games can set you up with certain skills that you
Yeah.
can take.
You know,
and
communication be like, all right,
use
yeah,
in
let's.
real life.
It's like you're really good at this, so let's do this. I'm really good at that, so
Yeah.
different those
And everyone's important.
everyone
Yeah.
is important.
You need every person to succeed. You can't
Yeah.
succeed if one person is not pulling their weight.
Well, isn't that one of the things that Dwight was saying? Is if you don't
Yeah.
utilize your skills, you're not going to win.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one thing he said was like, if you're not talking to the other people around the table, you're gonna lose.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's great. And that's like, it kind of goes back. Now I might be getting this story wrong. I should have double checked this before I started talking. But from what I remember, and if this is wrong, I apologize. But the story I remember is that Matt Leacock, the creator of this game, the designer, he actually designed the game because he wanted to play games with his wife, and his wife wasn't a particularly competitive player. So he created a co-op game to play with her, and I think that story is kind of cool because a lot of people play
it's
board
real.
games. I hope so.
Yeah.
I might have just pulled it out of my ass. I'm not
It
sure.
sounds really
but
cute.
hopefully it's
I'm
really
sorry.
so the idea of that, the idea that board games are very like a family thing that people do together at
Yes.
home, knowing that's sort of the story behind the game. I don't know. That kind of adds something.
Yeah,
to
I
me.
would want to play this with a group, with a family,
Yeah.
with people who,
Yeah.
who typically don't play games.
Yeah. So this was a big win for me.
You had another point about the pieces.
Oh,
Why
that
did
was
you like the pieces, Michael?
Well, it's funny. I actually wasn't planning on saying that in this video, but I will
Oh,
bring it
okay.
up.
Well,
Now they
Yeah.
brought it up.
I really
I'm
like the
sorry.
idea. Okay, so here is. So Pandemic, you wouldn't call it like a sci-fi game necessarily because it's very real world, whatever. But like it
Because
deals
it's happening
with,
right now.
Yeah. But there's still the idea of like it's a disease. It takes place in the modern day. It has a very sci-fi aesthetic to it, right? It's like
Yeah.
Yes.
neon blues. It's not a lot of board games are either like Cthulhu based, or they're very old timey, or like even something like Ticket to Ride had sort of a
Like a
old
period
school,
piece.
Yeah, period piece type stuff. And I think it dawned on me one of the reasons why there are so many period piece games. Is because there's something about the tactile nature of board games, of like cardboard and sort of the matte finish on these, where like if it's going to feel like something real, something tangible, it's usually going to be something that predates the digital age. One thing you can do to kind of make a game look very modern and make it look very futuristic even is having plastic pieces, especially the see-through ones. And I think the fact that the diseases are represented by clear cubes, well, not clear because they're colored, but like see-through, transparent, semi-transparent cubes, that really adds to sort of the science of it, right? It adds to sort of like, you can almost imagine this being on a computer screen, right?
Right,
Like,
yeah, like
it doesn't
touch
look
screen.
like if these cubes were just like little wooden cubes that you see in a lot of
It
Euro,
wouldn't fit.
Really,
It wouldn't
really
fit.
feel as
right? Yeah.
yeah.
So, like, I kind
feel
of
you.
wish that these were now
In a weird way, those are look almost out of place.
not
Yeah.
transparent.
Translucent.
Thank you. Yeah.
They almost look like the robber out of Catan, bringing it full circle. But yeah, this is a big win for me. I really enjoy this game.
Yes.
I would have this would be totally up there. Like if you're gonna get someone into board games, if you're gonna do if you're gonna do a gateway board game boot camp of your own with your friends or your kids or whatever, I would definitely throw Pandemic in there.
Yep.
For sure. Any final thoughts on any of the games that we just talked about, or any things that stood out to you that were particularly interesting or meant something to you, kind of how you view the world or anything like that?
Yes. So when we got all our roles just handed out randomly, and I got the quarantine specialist. And the very first thing,
just showed
I
the
don't
back of
know,
the
I know, I was
Like,
well,
girl.
I wanted to make sure I got her name right. The quarantine specialist. I really like that because she's a woman of color. And I'm like, I was really happy to see that representation on now a game that is super widespread,
Yeah.
and then there's, there's more diversity here, and there's like an equal amount of like men and women, and they're all they're all important.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no weak links among them.
No, they're all
do
very
something
necessary,
important.
to
And
have.
it started, it's really, like, with this game, you're really starting to bring in the human aspect of them.
Yeah, and the
whereas
individuality,
before, with, like, Ticket to Ride, like, oh, I'm a red train.
Yeah.
And, like,
You were-
or an
yeah, you were
orange
just a-
house. Like,
Yeah.
this really starts to
Right.
bring in the human
Like,
aspect
who are
of it.
you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I really love the representation in this
Yes.
And I was gonna say the other thing too is I think it helped that we played Catan and then Ticket to Ride and the Pandemic in that order, in chronological order, because I feel like in a lot of ways, to bring this back to the console part of the cardboard console, to bring it back to the video game analogy, I feel like board games are on a very similar trajectory as video games were, meaning that you know, you look at like old games from like the 80s or whatever, like NES and all that. You know, it's there's a character a lot of times, but it's also sort of just an abstract idea. Galaga, you're shooting stuff. Like there's just sort of it's just mechanics, very little theme on top of
You mean
it.
like the racing ones?
Or
like
racing
really,
ones or
like
whatever,
Pac-Man
like
or
Excite
something, or
Bike,
like
Pac-Man,
Pong.
whatever. Yeah. So you see very simple games with very simple mechanics and not a whole lot of theme. And you fast forward to now, and you got like RPGs and storylines, and you know,
Right.
like things. You have
Like
character
Detroit
development,
Become Human, and
which
that's
I can't
like
wait
so.
to play. Yeah,
Yeah.
like it's out. I just can't afford
Yeah,
it.
no,
But yeah, so you're seeing that, and one of the things I'm personally interested in, one of the things you'll hear me talk a lot about in this channel, is, if I'm being completely honest, none of these 3 games are really my type of game. And by that, what I mean is, I'm much more into long-form board games with like storylines and characters that you develop, campaigns, things like that. Is really like means a lot to me. Like stuff like Descent, things like Imperial Assault, or Time Stories, like games that like build over time and you get a sense of the world and the characters. And that's like an idea that didn't even exist like 25 years ago when Catan came out. And we're seeing slowly the progression in that direction. And I feel like we have certain games now that fit that bill. And I think just like video games continue to evolve and become more story-based and character-based and more mature, frankly, I feel like board games are going that direction too. I feel like, you know, this is a pandemic is a much more mature theme than Ticket to Ride or Catan.
Absolutely.
And personally, I appreciate that, you know, and there's games that are even more mature than that. I would say Asylum from Time Stories is pretty mature because you deal with like cocaine addiction, you deal with all kinds of stuff in there, right? So and I like that. I know a lot of people, and that's a debate that we can get into in this channel of like, should games all be family friendly? Is there a place for mature rated games? I'm sure we're going to have a lot of opportunities to discuss that, so I don't want to spend too much time on it now. But I do like the fact that by playing these 3 games, we start seeing a little bit of that evolution, and we're going to just continue to see it as we go forward. Now, for the next video, it's going to be part 2 of the Gateway Game Bootcamp. So this is only part 1. We're going to do 3 more games in the next video. Now, the way I chose them were these 3 games kind of are, like I said at the beginning, straddle that line between being mainstream and being hobby enthusiast kind of games. The next 3 are still gateway games, but they're going to be much more in the direction of games that, you know, you're not going to find at Walmart or Target or anything. These are firmly strategy games that you go to like a board game store to find usually. You might find them at Barnes and Noble, but for the most part, they're not mainstream games. And I won't tell you what they are yet. You'll just have to tune in to the next video to see them.
Exciting.
Yeah, I don't even.
Yeah, they don't even know. But they're about to play one now after we finish recording this. Anyway, so that's our episode for this part 1 of our Gateway Game Bootcamp series. My name's Michael.
I'm Omi.
Katie.
So thanks for watching our show. Please hit the subscribe button, and we will see you next time on the next video. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, Kara. But now we really do have to put her up.
Oh, watch out! Stop! Stop!
Oh, I forgot. Unless, here you go, hold this.
Yeah,
I'll be right back.
got it.
I know
Got
exactly
you.
where it was clipped to, so it'll be fine. So we're going to talk to Cara Delevingne.
That's so bad. Look at
Wait,
that.
let me take a picture of this.
That is. Oh my
Can
god.
we find a different terrible picture like every time?
Like every time, it's like
Yeah, I want to get a different
that's gonna be
picture
our
each time.
guest star. Guest star like every time.
All right.